Well, welcome everybody. We got a pretty big group that registered, so I'm excited to see who all shows up today. And I'm taking a chance. I'm doing something a little bit different, you guys. We did it as a Zoom call so that we can be a little bit more informal. You're more than welcome to turn your cameras on or keep your cameras off. And then we'll probably use the chat quite a bit to help facilitate some questions here.
Great. Hey, I just came from practice, so y'all can put your cameras on if I can put my practice hair on display. I think I'm still sweating.
That's like way to get into character.
That's exactly what I was thinking. Let me just practice right up until this thing so that I am just in the mindset and ready to go.
I love it. If you guys, I would love if you could all use the chat. Would love to know what team you coach. If you could put the team name and then also where you're from, where your team is out of. Would love to know where everybody is. So if you guys should be able to throw that in the chat. We're gonna give Selena crap for showing up 1 minute late. All right, Ryan from Utah. We got Louisiana. Awesome. Welcome, Selena.
Hey, I had to unmute myself.
Yeah, I think I muted everybody coming in here. All right, we got Kansas, Iowa, Utah, Louisiana, Greenville, Texas. I'm from Texas. I don't know where Greenville is. All right, I want to jump in and just go ahead and get started, and then I'm sure we will have more people. We had a lot of people sign up. I would imagine if you guys are coaching 10U, you probably wear a lot of hats in life and are juggling multiple things. So we appreciate you guys spending some time with us, and Skeeter and Selena, I appreciate you guys as well of jumping in. Jess Karen is from the Alliance Fastpitch. It looks like Dave McCorkle is also on here from our Alliance Fastpitch team. So appreciate all you guys. If you just jumped on, we're throwing who you coach for and where you're coming from into the chat. And then I want to share, I am going to take a quick moment here. I just want to tell you guys a little bit, give you a quick story of who we are with the Alliance and kind of, what brought all of this together as well. So first, real quick, I'll give you guys a very, very quick intro of myself, but I'm Jami Lobpries. I am the CEO of the Alliance Fastpitch. I think I've worn all the hats inside of softball. I was a youth player. I played at Texas A&M. I got to coach college. I've played professionally. I coached a 12U team. I'll probably share some of those stories too. So I can relate as well. I do not have daughters playing and I am not coaching now, but I do have a 10-year-old and 7-year-old niece and get to live vicariously through them as well. And I was a part of building the Alliance Fastpitch. And so just really quick, if you guys are not familiar with the Alliance Fastpitch, it's a national organization. It's really a national league system. We've got our national league and it's divided up into regional leagues. And it really is, if you can see these pictures, these are really a lot of the people, whether it's coaches, whether it's athletes, former athletes, event directors who came together and just thought we could do things a little bit different in our sport and to really better serve our athlete. And that's what we were founded upon, 2 core principles of putting the athlete first and unity. And we think by working together, we can really help bring the right resources to our sport and grow together. So what we do is we try to make the travel softball journey easier for families. So we've got a clear pathway to play through our league schedules. We'll talk a lot about that probably with finding tournaments. providing equal opportunities to our nationals that may or may not affect you guys at the 10 and under level. But I think these next two will. We're providing athletes, coaches, and parents with more access to affordable resources, and then providing a community. And that's exactly what I'm hoping to do today, where we can lean in to support each other. We can share stories. I hope we've got some laughter, and then just real takeaways that you guys can take back into your practice. So currently, this is how we are divided up into our 8 regional leagues. Moving into the 24 season, we have added a 9th league, the Central Fastpitch League, but this guys gives you an example just of our map. And it's really thinking of us as the pathway to play and the pathway to develop. We honestly were built by a lot of coaches and former players who have been in your shoes, and every single one of us probably started at the rec level, and then maybe moved in through all-stars, and then went on this whole crazy travel ball journey that some of us are on or not on. So that's a little bit about me. Again, thank you guys for joining us. Our biggest thing with the Alliance is we have not served our 10 and under and 12 and under as well as we think we can. And we honestly want to learn from you guys today. So we want to build a community. We want to support each other. So in talking with a couple of my friends who are in this world, we thought we could share some stories and some real advice. So let's get into it. I'm going to start just kind of facilitating some questions and let you guys learn a little bit about Selena Collins Patterson and Melissa Gentile, or better known as Skeeter. Skeeter's with the St. Louis Chaos organization, and Selena is with the Vipers. And I know them well, and I'm excited of the 2 different personalities to hear some stories. But Skeeter, I'll start with you. Can you give just a little bit of background of who you are and what you're currently doing at the youth level?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, happy to be here. Thanks for having me on. Literally just came straight from practice. I was laughing with Jamie, like I think I'm still sweating because most of us coaching youth ball are wearing a lot of different hats. Currently, mine is mom of 4, coach pitch to my 3 youngest. So I'm the coach pitch coach, which is a whole different level. I've coached really youth ball all the way up. I was a Division I player at Michigan, fortunate enough to play with our national team for a long time. I coached Division I softball for over 10 years, coached at the 18U level. So I feel like I have a unique experience to bring, and quite honestly, probably some really funny stories of like me thinking I really knew what the heck I was doing. And then coaching at the 10U and coach pitch levels, you realize, man, I don't know as much as I thought I did. So they humble you quickly. So yeah, just happy to be here, share some experiences, share some stories, and just build the community right along with Jamie. I love what Alliance is doing and just happy to be a part of it.
Awesome. Thank you. Selena?
Yeah, my name is Selena Collins Patterson. I am originally from Arizona, but I was blessed enough to get a softball scholarship and play for Texas A&M. I was before Jamie, so as I was leaving out, she was coming in, and so I did that, and I played with the national team for a little while, and then the USA national team, and then I played in the pro league for a couple years. So I played 1 year in Houston, and then I played 2 years in Chicago with the Bandits. I was a catcher, and then I played a little bit collegiately. I coached a little bit collegiately for a short stint, probably for about 4 years in Texas. So I coached at Sam Houston State for a couple years, and then I went over to Trinity University in San Antonio for a couple years. And then I got married and I started a family, and I decided, I'm just going to step away from softball for a little while, and I'm going to get into teaching. And so I'm a professor at Kennesaw State University. So I've been there since 2014, and I teach in our coaching. Well, it's going to be a coaching major, but I teach in our coaching minor right now. And so that's been awesome. I love that, teaching students and kind of getting them on the path of becoming coaches themselves. And then I had children. I had 2 girls. I have a 10-year-old and I have a 7-year-old. And my 10-year-old played, youth, and my 7-year-old plays, rec as well. And so I don't have the patience for youth, for the rec. And so I'm just very intense. And so I dub my husband to be the one. And so every year I say, they send out the email, like, do we have any volunteers? And I put Corey Patterson on there. And I said, oh, by the way, you're the coach for, our girls team. And so, he does it because he's patient. So, he's a yin to my yang. So it's nice to have, and my husband has had about almost 10 big league years, playing in the MLB. And so, he has quite a vast knowledge, but none of that is put to work at the youth level, at rec ball anyway. It's more about managing and, making sure, it's put to work, right? But the basics, but his patience is what really puts him there. And so I got into travel ball last year when, it was just one of those things. I always said, like, if you're serious enough, if you really want to play, I was telling my daughter, if I see that you really want to play and you love it, and this is what you really want to do, and then I'll step in, and it won't be till 10U, because at 10U travel ball, you can be a little bit more intense. And so that's more of my pathway. And so I just felt like this is my passion. I also coach high school. I coach a varsity at a private school here. That's a totally different story too. I was just going to do middle school, and I swore I was never going to do varsity because of time and all that stuff. And then I ended up coaching varsity. But yeah, so now I coach our 10U team with the Atlanta Vipers, and I love it. And it's intense and it's a lot, but it's where I feel like I'm truly meant to be, because the kids are so formidable at this age, and I love that I get to teach them the fundamentals, and I get to teach them the mental side, and get to teach them all these things that as they continue to get older will be useful. So I feel like although I thought I wasn't going to get into coaching again, I've really found my passion here with this age group and this in travel ball. I say that now because I just got started, but ask me in about 3 more years, and then I might have a different team.
I love it. And I'm sure a lot of you are here because perhaps your daughter got you into it, and maybe not, maybe you played and you just really want to coach. We are here for you all tonight. So please use the chat. We want to answer questions. Don't leave here without answering a question that you have. And we're all going to learn from each other. I want to set the stage because I love this age group. They're so passionate, and it's a very, very important age group. And honestly, I kind of hear across the country that 10U, we're seeing participation numbers go down. So why is that? Is it true? And so again, you are a very, very important group. I respect what you guys are all doing, and want to learn from you. So Skeeter, first question to set the stage, give me your best 10U story, and kind of that moment of like, oh, yep, these girls are 10.
Oh goodness, I have so many stories. It's hard to narrow down, I guess. One that comes to mind, which was sort of my aha moment, was like first practice. I've been coaching D1. I'm coming to help this team out, and like, I got this. I've coached D1. I've played D1. I've coached 8. Like, I got this. And I don't got this, guys. I go to the field, and all these kids, it's like herding kittens. They're all over the place. You get them in line, and pretty soon somebody's picking on the next one, and they're tying shoes and all this stuff. And so right away, I'm sort of like frazzled, like, wait a second, what? They're not, they're not following the practice plan, because I had a practice plan that was like minute by minute, which was also funny now looking back, thinking that it was going to follow my nice practice plan. But we start talking a little bit about hitting, and sometimes as coaches, I think it just makes us feel better to use like big terms, but at that age group, it's really about keep it simple, stupid, is my approach. And so I was talking to this kid about hitting, and I was really talking to her about trying to stay through the ball. And I used the word power line with her. And so we had just talked about it, and I just explained that, the power line, whatever, everybody's got their own terms, but power line is the path of the ball. We're going to stay through it, right? And so I asked her, explain to me back, right? So it's coming back, like my teaching cues, explain to me back what you heard. What does power line mean? And she looked at me like dead on, as serious as she can. And she's like, duh, that's where the electricity comes from. Power line. Got you. Okay, that's where we're at. Yep. So yes. So that's just kind of like off the cuff. That was like my aha moment of like, here's the practice plan. Boop. And here's me thinking, pop my bubble, like you do not have a clue what you're doing. You got to take a step back. So that was, yeah, that was just one off the top of my head, but I'm sure I'll find more as we go.
That's amazing. Selena, I'm going to ask you this because though we didn't play together, the legacy of Selena Collins and her competitiveness was the legacy there at A&M. What was your first moment of dealing and setting the stage of culture, both with your players and then parents as well? How did you go about the whole managing parents and culture conversation?
Yeah, so because I like to say intense because, and the reason why I say intense is because actually when I first started coaching middle school, this is like right after kind of like year, like right after like college, like coaching college and stuff. And I had, I maybe was just too intense with my middle schoolers anyways. And it's a private school. So, and not to say anything about private school, but it was just a different type of kid that I was coaching. And so I was probably more intense than what I needed to be with the group that I had. And so a mom, I overheard her say, yeah, Coach Steve, she's very intense. And I was like, oh. And at first I was like, intense. And I was like, that is a great word to describe me actually, because I just am. So whenever I was pulling my team together, I just knew that I wanted to have like a really competitive team. And that's just the culture that kind of comes with our organization. And so I had a player parent meeting and I'm just a type A. And so I'm very structured. Like I have, player, like a parent packet and, I have my rules and I have, a code of conduct and I have all the things like my practice plans, like I do all the things. And so it was very important to me that whenever I sat the parents down, this was like, this is what we do. Like, this is how I handle this. I have a 24-hour rule. Nobody talks to me right after a game. You get 24 hours. And this is like for everything, like questions, playing time, any of that. Like we need 24 hours. And then after a tournament, like, then I'll wrap up our tournament. I'll do like a wrap up in our parent chat and just kind of wrap up our tournament. And so I just kind of talk about respect and, but when I was also forming my team, we did team bonding stuff beforehand. And so as we're coming in, we're all getting acclimated to each other, but they also see that I'm human and I do laugh and I'm not just all intense. And so they got a chance like at the beginning to kind of see me as, yes, I'm this figure that is very tough but fair, but I also can laugh and have a good time too. And so, and I'll just share one story really quick. After this weekend, we played in a tournament and we won the tournament, and my team, they were planning something, like they told me they were planning something, and I knew it was, right? Like I know that like if we win that they're gonna like pour water on me. I just figured that that's what they're talking about. And so they had asked one of the other coaches and, well, what do you think? Is she gonna get mad? And then some girls are like, well, I don't know if we should do this. I think she's gonna get upset. Like, do you think she's gonna get upset? And so it's there, just try it, she'll be fine. And so one of my coaches was like, just take it, like, just let them do this, like, turn your back. And I was like, okay, that's fine. And so I knew they were gonna pour water on me, but I let them do it. So, but I mean, just that alone, like they were seeing me laugh and just, they see that I'm human, right? And that like, I demand all these things for them and I have high expectations, but they also see that I can be fun and, there's a time and a place, but I am fun. And I do allow for things that they feel like makes me touchable, right? And so I think that's kind of important to establish just at the beginning and kind of just what you want your program to look like, what you want your team to look like. And if you know what that looks like, then you lay it out for the parents and the players. And really they kind of, for me anyway, they all kind of just fall in line and It's actually been so far, I mean, I know I'm just getting started, but it's been so far like a pretty good, foundation that I feel like I've set so far with parents and players.
That's awesome. And I feel like it's in anything we do, right? Like setting that culture first is really important. And especially with your players and then with the parents. I remember my first time I was coaching a 12 and under team, I had never coached before. And so the only thing I knew was just how I practiced in college and so I'm like, I'm going to create this parent code of conduct and I'm going to have this conversation at the beginning. I didn't know what the heck I was getting myself into. But I did find that I could point back to that so many times. And it was way more conversations with the parents. Hey, remember that meeting? Remember that code of conduct that we signed? Skeeter, curious from your standpoint too, just anything additional when it comes to setting the culture with your team.
I love everything that that the two of you said, because it really is. It's so much easier when you're starting out to lay this foundation with your parent expectations or code of conduct, but then also what they can expect from you as a coach. And I really just feel like doing a good job of communicating those things on the front end will help you down the line when, when somebody's mad that their kid isn't, playing enough, or, anytime that there's questions, as you said, you can always revert back, and my favorite is always, one of our rules, and it depends on the age group because I've coached all levels, but once we get 14U and up in our organization, we don't have playing time conversations with parents anymore. So it's anything that happens between the lines is a conversation that we have with the players. So it really helps them with those skills of how to have a difficult conversation with an adult, and how to handle those things. And so my favorite is always one of our rules is, we won't have those conversations. So there's always at least one, that parent that will come up and be like, I know we're not supposed to talk about this, but it's like, no, stop right there. You just answered your question. No, we're not going to talk about this, but send Becky over and I'm happy to have a conversation with her, but you can do those once you've laid that foundation. Right. And so you can't then go back. You can't wait until there's problems and go back to say, oh, this isn't acceptable. So you really have to do a good job of communicating that stuff. And I'm a big fan of getting stuff in writing and having the packet as well, because then there's just no question. So
before I move on I was going to kind of dive into some practice planning and even like roster management. Does anybody have any questions in regards to culture? Anybody want to come off mute and ask a question?
Hi, Jamie. I can ask a question. I don't know if you can hear me.
Yep. Go ahead.
So I'm currently 9U coach for Team Pennsylvania. I'm going to be taking over the 10U team next season. And so this is the first year since when I brought the 8U team to 9U, I didn't try anybody out. I didn't know how to adapt to a kid pitch. So I just kept the full roster, and a couple kids decided it wasn't for them. And this is my first year that I'm actually going to be recruiting and trying kids out. I'm bringing over, so my plan was to bring over the head coach of a different team as an assistant coach with her daughter, who's a very, very, very good pitcher. And since word gets out, you try to keep it quiet, but word started getting out. I started hearing other coaches from other organizations saying, hey, be careful with that coach, because we've heard some negative things about her and how she handles her team. My question is, does that matter if she's an assistant coach when the decision-making comes to me? I've heard that she might do things that might impact families or might impact kids or players. But I really like her kid as a pitcher, and I've never had an issue with her, but I've heard several people have had issues with her.
Anybody want to, Selena, answer it?
Well, I mean, travel ball world is just it's just like a soapbox, right? So it's like, I feel like everybody has their own opinion on certain people. And so it's just, I feel like it's one of those things that if you don't have an issue with her and you You know, I think it's something that you have to experience for yourself and then make that call after you've worked with her and then move on from there. I don't really like going off of other people's opinions because what they think is not handling something well might be right on task with how you handle something. And what I think is important is making sure that when you do, if you get a chance to have a conversation with her about kind of the direction that you're looking to take your team and what your vision is for the team, and what your expectations are for her as your assistant coach, I think it makes it a little bit more streamlined so that there's no in between, oh, well, I didn't know, I thought we were gonna run it this way. If you and your coaches are on the same page, then there's really, you know that they're not gonna deviate, right? Because again, that expectation is put out there. You've had a conversation with that coach, and you kind of set the foundation there. And then if there are problems, then you just are able to have a conversation with them. And I think that's probably one of the most important things is communication and making sure that if you don't like something, or if it's something that you feel like she was out of line with, that you address it with her in a respectful way, not in front of your players, but address it with her when you can and make sure that you guys get back on track on the right page and on the right page. But I think that's something that you have to experience, but also make sure you set the foundation before you start your team with her.
That's awesome. Parents. It's just funny. You use the word recruiting and parents, and my head went to that happens at the college level too. It's a package deal, right, with them, but I think it happens at the youth level too. Skeeter, did you want to add to it?
No, I couldn't have said anything better. Honestly, that's exactly how I would handle it. You got to have your own experience before you can, rely too heavily on that. But the common theme of everything so far is just try to do a good job of creating those expectations and having the conversation. I'm a big life lesson person. So, for me, you lay that foundation, and then when something does happen, it's just a teachable moment. It doesn't always have to be like this huge deal that sometimes we make it. It's, hey, this is a teachable moment. Like, this isn't acceptable. These are my expectations, and here's how we have to communicate, and here's how we have to do things moving forward. And then ultimately, if they're not able to do that, then that's a different conversation, but at least having those expectations sets you up for success.
I want to ask this question, and anybody can answer this. I'm really curious, roster size at 10 and under, because obviously at 10 and under, they're developing, right? And to me, we want those kids to develop and get some game time. Curious what everyone's thoughts are on how many athletes you carry on your roster, and then even how many pitchers do you carry as well? Anybody want to answer that one?
I can speak. Relatively new to travel coaching. I've only coached 8U and now 10U, but I carry 11 with 3 pitchers.
I have a little experience. I have a 16U team. I run a high school program and have a 10U team as well. So I feel like the younger groups, you need to carry less players because I think they need to be on the field more. I know with our 16U group, we carry more because there's lots of showcases and, visits and things like that. So I feel like we never have our full roster on a weekend, but I think with the lower levels, and I'm new to 10U, that's why I'm in this. I wanted to get some ideas in this session today, but I feel like less is better with this particular age. So we have 13 currently, and we have 3 pitchers.
Awesome.
I'll specify that by saying, or I'll clarify that by saying we have 3 bracket ready pitchers. We have, all these kids all take lessons. So we probably have 7 kids in lessons right now, but 3 bracket ready pitchers.
I'm gonna build on that. I'm gonna ask this question. How do you get pitchers more bracket experience? And it's a general question because I have heard, right, bracket pitcher and pool pitcher. So I'm just kind of curious from your guys. I don't know, Selena or Skeeter, if you have any thoughts on that. And then how does that player get some game reps?
Sorry, I had to come off mute because there's a mutiny outside my office door, my children. But I do think it's important to be able to put the pitchers in the stress of bracket play being, and first of all, you have to realize like, okay, what is our goal with this team? Are you coaching a team that is not as worried about the win-loss record, that is just really purely like basics, fundamentals, getting some game time? And then are you going to win tournaments, right? And there's a lot of in between, but certainly creating that stress of bracket play, it's hard to simulate in practice, and it's hard to simulate outside of that environment. We try to do a good job, across the Oregon with the teams that I'm working with, of making sure that they understand the importance of every single game. So, we really don't talk too much about, well, it's just pool play. Every game for us is an opportunity, and that's what we really hit on. This is an opportunity for us to get better, for us to learn, and for us to grow. And so, that's just kind of a general philosophy thing that's, that we do. So in terms of how do you manage it? If you're going to win your goal is to go out and you've got to win this tournament. Again, it comes back to setting those expectations and being clear that you're going to play your best pitcher in bracket play. And you're going to utilize, maybe a rotation or something like that in your pool play games that lead up to that. But once you hit bracket play, it's elimination time. It's, your best 9 play. Again, it's how you've communicated and what your goals are as in a team. But any opportunity you have to, maybe you're up enough in a game where you can get a kid a couple innings and just get her some experience in that bracket play, in that a little bit more stressful environment, even if it's just in her own head that she's creating that stress, it still puts her in a different mental space and gives her work on that so that eventually she can become your bracket pitcher. And I think that's ultimately the goal, is to make sure that you're helping these kids develop so that you have 4 bracket pitchers on your team. Wouldn't that be a great problem to have? But if you're not developing them, you're not going to get that. You're going to always have your pool pitchers and your bracket pitchers.
Kind of elaborating on that a little bit more, Dan asked, if we have one bracket pitcher at 10U, how do you know if you're pitching her too much? And that might be, I don't know if you guys, Selena, do you want to elaborate a little bit more what your thoughts are on that?
One bracket pitcher, I guarantee you're pitching her too much, just because you're playing in bracket. If you're winning, if it's you may play 4 games to get the championship, but if you lose, you're playing about 6-7 games to get back up to, I'm talking about maybe if it's a 2-day double win, you're playing 6-7 games to get to that championship game. And if your pitcher is throwing 6-7 games, even 4 games back to back to back, and I think everybody's different, and this is just my opinion, but I think it is too much. And I think that's hard to have a team, and you're not the only one. There's other teams that are competitive teams that rely heavily on one really good pitcher. And I just think it's not good. I think it's leading them towards burnout, injury. It's just, and to me, to have that pressure of being the end all be all, I think is a lot for this age group. So and that, like I said, this is my opinion. I carry 11 and I have 4, I'm lucky enough to have 4 good pitchers and a 5th pitcher who I call is developmental. And so I'll put all my pitchers will pitch in pool play. So I find a way to get them innings. And even my 5th pitcher will likely maybe start a game, and I might give her 1 inning, because then that at least takes her it gives her pressure to get in there and to get some game time. But it then doesn't give her so much pressure at the end of a game, like if a game is close, or might also present an opportunity where she doesn't get in at all because it's a close game, and now I don't want to put my not so great pitcher towards the end of the game. So I might start her and give her either 12 pitches or 1 inning, whichever comes first, and then take her out and then have her backup come in, somebody that's more consistent, can throw strikes, can limit runs. And then that way I can take her out on a high to where she's feeling good, and not always taking out my pitchers when they're feeling, when I feel like, man, you can't throw enough strikes, I gotta take you out. So I try to take them out when they're doing well, if I can in pool play, or limit the amount of pitches. So if I only have, two pool play games, or even three, I'll split the game with two of my, with my pitchers, two pitchers per game or something like that. But again, I think I'm lucky to have 4 good pitchers and then a 5th developmental pitcher, because when you get in games, especially like our age group mostly plays one day. And so when you're going through one day playing 8, 9 games, like that's insane to me. I think it's insane anyway to play one day. I think one days are insane. But at least throughout 2 days, you can spread it out a little bit and you're playing 4 games. But like I said, if you get thrown in the losers bracket early, you're fighting your way back, you could, play up to 6 to 8 games to get to the championship. And I just think that that's a lot for one pitcher at this age. Just my opinion.
That's really good. And I was going to go, because we're a lot on gameplay, right? And getting that player game reps, which I think are so important in her development, but even taking a step back, practice planning. And Skeeter even mentioned, hey, she came with this like thorough practice plan on every minute, and then it changed, right? I'm kind of curious if you guys could throw in the chat, when it comes to building a practice plan, or when it comes to getting drills, where do you go? Like, what is your source? What have you found to be really helpful in finding drills, or like building your practice plans? I'm really curious. And then, is there a need for that? Are there things that we could help with in building those practice plans? So if you guys don't mind throwing that in the chat. And then Selena, I'll start with you. Just building your practice plan. What does that look like? Does it depend on the time of the year? Does it depend on your players? Just kind of curious how you go about building your practice plans for your younger teams.
Yeah, for sure. It just depends on the time of year. So like if I'm early in the year, like in the fall, winter going into fall, a lot of it's developmental. And so we do a lot of like fundamental work, skill work, strength and, agilities, things like that. And then as we get past, we move into the spring, a lot of mine's just based off of like what I know from, and I literally, like, I do a breakdown, like I have from like down to the minute of, okay, we have our everydays. So from this time to this time for jog, stretch, everydays. Then we move on to, we have some drill work, skill work. And then I always too, like during our season, like based off of what we did in a tournament, and then what we need to work on from a tournament. Say our bunt defense was terrible, or our tweeners were not great, we weren't having good communication in the tweeners. Like I focus on that. I then go back to the drawing board and I implement, okay, this is what we need to work on. So we're going to be working on tweeners today. We're going to be working on communication between the innies and outies. We're going to be doing, or we're going to break up. I'm going to do station work. We're going to rotate through stations. And this is just stuff that I have off of the top of my head that I've just developed through the years, whether it's been playing and then I just have a lot of good resources too. I've been blessed with a lot of friends that are in the coaching world and, coach either at the college level or, or even at the high school and travel ball. So just to be able to reach out to them and be like, hey, like, what's a good drill for this? Or, hey, do you do, live every day? Like, what do you do? Like, just to kind of like pick their brain and, and just to try to keep up with, the everything, like just the times, right? So like what I was doing when I was playing college is not the same as it is now. And so trying to stay current with that, whether it's watching, coaches or people that I feel are reputable, going and watching their drills and skills, or Instagram or something like that. And if I see a drill that I really like that resonates with me, I, will pull that. But I'm all about like learning and growing, and I don't think that I ever know it all. And so if I don't, and I feel like I need help, like with something, I always, I try to reach out to, the resources that I have. And like I said, I've kind of been blessed with a lot of people that are very knowledgeable in my circle. So it's, I'm fortunate to have that.
That's awesome. That's one of the things that I'm really curious about. And with the Alliance, we do have a lot of organizations and bigger orgs. We also have a lot of smaller teams or organizations, or maybe, it's one single team or it's 3 teams, but providing more access to this drill bank, or, hey, what do you do? How do you build a practice plan? So I'm kind of curious from you guys too, any creative ideas? Maybe you've got a first year 10, or you got a mix. You got some girls on your team who've been playing for a while, and you have other girls who just started playing. Anybody have some creative strategies they've used in practice, to just really keep the girls engaged, while also obviously focusing on the development too? Anybody want to share?
I would say one drill that we do that is not super conventional, but it might be to this group, is we do a lot of long toss with baseballs with 9-year-old kids. Their hands are so small that we found that long tossing with baseballs in practice actually really helps develop the strength of their arm versus using the big softball that they have a hard time holding on to.
Skeeter, I feel like when you and I were talking, you were doing something you were putting your younger kids with your older kids, correct? When you practice, can you talk a little bit about that and what that's done for your younger players?
I absolutely love that part of our organization. We do org practices once a month throughout the fall and winter, where we have all of our age groups together practicing. And nothing gets me more fired up than, I'll give you a perfect example. One of my 18U players, she plays second base for us, just has incredible footwork to the ball. I mean, just a thing of beauty to watch. And we're at an org practice, and I look out, and there's a line of like 5 or 6 kids. And at the end of the line is one of our 12 and under kids. And I'm watching her, she's watching my player actually field the ball, and she's trying to simulate her footwork. No one's around her. She's just standing at the back of the line, trying to simulate her footwork that she's seeing with my player. And to me, like, that's what it's all about right there, is our younger players being able to watch some of our older players and just develop together. And it just, it gives them players to look up to strive to be. And it's also great for our older players to make sure that, they're giving back, and we're building that culture of, hey, we're all in this together. When some of our teams aren't playing, it's not unusual. If I've got my 18 team out there, it's not unusual for us to have some of the 12-year chaos players come in our dugout during our game if they're not playing. And they're there, and they're hearing the information. And same thing, if our 16U team isn't playing, they're in the 12U dugouts. And it's just so cool. And we've built that culture in that community. And I really think more than anything, it really helps with our younger kids to see somebody their age that they can relate to, or not their age, but a little bit older, that they can relate to doing it. It's so different when us as coaches model something or show them something, or, even as much as, maybe it's a little bit back in the day, but, showing a clip of Natasha Watley's footwork at short, or, something like that. It just grabs them different when it's somebody they can feel and they can touch and they can talk to. So there's a lot of value in that, even if you have former players that have moved on, bringing them back to practice and having them come in your dugouts. Those are all really good ways, not only to build culture, but also just to continue that the players learning.
Skeeter, how do you line up, how does the organization line up, like match up schedules that way to be able to do it once a month? Is it like pre-planned in the winter and
Absolutely.
everybody's working around it, or how do you guys match those schedules up?
Yeah, that's what we do. We plan it out months in advance so that everybody can plan for that particular weekend. And in our org, probably similar to yours, we do have players that are from other states. So I, for instance, have a pitcher from Wisconsin on my team, and she doesn't make it down for every monthly org practice, but she knows well in advance, and she makes it to as many as she can. And we have a team that's from Kentucky, and them knowing and planning it out, everybody plans around those weekends. And so we get as many people as we can. All of the coaches from all of the teams are there. So we're all working together. We're all instructing, and, it's great for our coaches as well, because we also have coaches summits that we do within our org where we get together and we just learn from each other and share ideas. But it also makes sure that we're on the same page when we have the org together. So that, when I'm working with somebody else's player on a 16U team or a 10U team or a 12U team, the language is fairly consistent. You're all going to have your own little nuances, but the messaging is pretty similar. What we're teaching and the things that we stand for, are the same across the board. And so, yeah, we set those dates, we get them out well in advance, and then everybody plans around them.
Are those practices mostly stations with that many kids?
So, yeah, we do a lot of station work, and then we'll also break it up. We're fortunate we've got a great facility, so we'll break it up and we'll have maybe half the kids hitting, and then we'll have the other half doing defense. And, we've got a big open infield and stuff that we can get full infield, so we can hit a ton of balls at them, a lot of station work, a lot of quick pace stuff, and regardless of what age you're coaching, but in particular, I find at the younger ages, it's really making sure that you're keeping things moving, because any downtime, it's like you lose their attention, and if you want them to keep the intensity and keep their focus, you also have to keep that in your plans as you're working, is moving quickly from station to station, right? Because they're constantly on their phone. Everything's quick. They have information like that and everything's quick. They're playing Nintendo, it's instant feedback. And so, when we slow things down, although sometimes we need to, but when we have the org practice together, we try to everything quick pace. We've got enough coaches to where if there really needs to be a big instructional breakdown, we'll pull that group off to the side and work some stuff off to the side. But I would definitely encourage you guys, even if it's not in a totally organization thing, but just get another team that's older. A lot of times our younger teams will come and practice a night, or our 16s and 18s, we do that a lot. So one of our 16 teams may join our 18U practice one evening, and we'll practice together, and the coaches get together beforehand and we create a practice plan. What does your team need? What does my team need? It allows us to do a lot more things, a lot more game situations as well. But I'm a big fan of anytime you can match up teams within the org, it just benefits everybody, makes everybody better.
Chris, did you?
That's
Oh.
been valuable here in Arkansas for us as well. We've got 4 teams, 18U team, 2 10 other teams. 4 teams further away from Skeeter. The one thing I'll say to anyone who's thinking about doing that, Skeeter, I agree with you. Anytime you can, it's good for both age groups, but don't be afraid to run the little kids out there. Yeah, they may use a smaller ball, maybe they play at a little different pace. Don't be afraid to throw them in. I know there may be some parents who are a little afraid of that. I don't want to sound like I'm being reckless in thought, but it's so good for them to see exactly what those girls do. Be treated as if they're, little kids. Let them feel like they're peers, because they are. And the big girls will absolutely treat them like they belong out there. These girls on both sides gain and grow so much from this. And I really think that it's been the key for our girls, our younger ones, learning how to handle themselves in the game, beyond the things that we can really convey as coaches. So that was kind of a segue into one of my questions for you guys. That is one way we do it, but a lot of what we do in SIMU is educating parents. A lot of the culture, a lot of the things that we want to set forward. We've got to almost have those conversations with the families, with the kids, right? For what those expectations are and for how you want things to be. But my question to you guys, because you've certainly developed more athletes all the way through, how do you convey the self-talk, the ideas of their own success, to take that stress away from them, the little internal monologue, with the 9-year-old? How do you develop those things, as opposed to just the softball side of it, which, looking around and thinking, we've got a lot of like you said, larger regional national programs, we're used to having 18, 16-year-old kids that are just handed to us that are already talented and ready to go. When you get a 9-year-old, you've got a teacher that, batting 500 on the weekend is okay. You've got a teacher that, not winning every single game is okay. We've been fortunate for that, but there's a lot of achievement, a lot of that. So what are some tactics and tricks that you guys have had? What do you think about that in your talk with them?
I just love that question. Thank you for asking that question. Honestly, I've had that conversation specifically with so many kids, regardless of what age group. And what they don't understand is they all think that they're the only one having that conversation in their head. They all think that they're the only one that is saying to themselves, like, I suck. You know what I mean? And so I always tell this story. So Jessica Mendoza, I think probably a lot of you know Jessica Mendoza, but she's just a phenomenal athlete and was Olympian, you name it. I could give her resume, but anyway, my kids know her. My team knows her, and so I use her as an example all the time because she's one of the most elite level athletes that you can get. And Jess called me one time, and they were playing on the East Coast somewhere, and she was just like, "I'm just in my head. I'm in my head." I'm like, "Well, what are you telling yourself?" She's like, "That I can't hit the outside pitch." And I share that story with my kids, and they all look at me like, no way Jessica Mendoza is telling herself she can't hit the outside pitch. Yes, because everybody does it. Everyone has that inner voice. The difference between the average athlete and the elite level athlete is learning to manage that voice and learning to use that voice to empower versus holding back. And the sooner we start those conversations, the better for our athletes. And so if you can start that at the 9U level and the 10U level in having those conversations, they are going to be so much better off, not just in softball, but life, right? Because we have that voice outside of softball as well, right? And so to answer your question kind of like more specifically is just letting them know and sharing experiences with them that let them know that it's okay to have those thoughts. So let's talk about then, how do we manage those thoughts? It's okay to be upset that you didn't succeed. That's actually a good thing. If you were happy that you struck out, like, we would have a different conversation. You know what I mean? So what do we do with that? So what do we do with that information? You're frustrated. So first of all, it's okay for you to be frustrated and giving them the permission to be frustrated. And what does that look like? Sometimes kids need a physical release. I was one of those players. I needed a physical release. When I would make a mistake on the field, I would be so mad at myself, right? But what do we teach? Like composure, keep it together, nothing about it, fake it till you make it. I've heard all those things, right? And so one of the things that I talk to my players about is it's okay to need that physical release. So let's look at a productive way for that. So let me give you an example. Say, for instance, you're playing third base. One of the things I would do if I was playing third base, I was a catcher and a third baseman, is, I'd boot a ball and I would pick up some dirt in my hand afterwards. And I would squeeze the living hell out of that dirt. I mean, white knuckle it, every muscle in my body. It was so tense, right? But nobody knows I'm doing that. But for me, I'm just sort of getting that out. And then symbolically, I would toss them that dirt behind me as sort of my cue of like, there's nothing I can do about that. And I toss it behind me and then I wipe it off, and no one was the wiser. No one knew what was going on. But for me, I needed that before I could then move on. And so I think it's important to share things like that with our athletes and show them that that emotion is okay. We don't expect you to act like it doesn't matter or you don't care, because that's not reality. So here's maybe a productive way that you can use it. You can't do anything, get it out, toss it behind you. All right, now we're back in it. Hitters I talk to a lot about, take your 30 to 60 seconds when you come off the field and you just struck out. take your 30 to 60 seconds and take your drink of water, and, you know, maybe you squeeze the hell out of the cup when you're done, or, you know what I mean? Or maybe you just go over there and take some breaths. But the cool thing about this is every kid is so unique, and what they're going to need is so different. And so I feel like as coaches, one of the things that we have to do is provide them with options. Here's some ideas, and talk to some of the other players on the 16 level, on the 14 level. Hey, what do you do? How do you handle it when you get upset? And let them share the experiences with the younger kids, right? Because again, it's going to show them that oh, wow, they do it too. And here's some strategies, and let's try it. Let's see what works for you, right? A pat on the back, it's okay, it might not work for every kid. You know, some kids need a foot up the butt, some kids need a hug, some kids, you know, I mean, every kid is different. And that's the cool thing about coaching, is trying to figure out how you can connect with each kid. So, I mean, I could go on and on about this topic, as you can tell. Like, I'm just super passionate about that, because I feel like we talk very little about what happens between their ears and how to help them with that. And it's such a huge part of our game. So.
Yeah, I agree, Skeeter. I'm huge on it. Like, and I always tell the girls, like, this is the hardest thing you're ever going to do, is even at the college level and even as an adult, like, you're still trying to manage how to fail and then keep going, and how to not quit, like, and how to get your mind right so that you can continue to be productive. And so if we can work on it now at 10U, you're going to be so much better for it. And so we actually do stuff like, before our tournament even starts, like, my girls are laying on the grass and they love it. Like, they love it. And I do mental training with them. So it's like, all right, everybody lay down. So everybody lays down, we find some shade, and, you know, I talk them through it. All right, I want you, first thing we're gonna do, in through the nose, deep breath, in through the nose for a count of 3, out through your mouth for a count. And we do like 3 breaths. Then I talk them through situations. I talk them through imagining yourself, you know, now your feet are stepping in the box, your pre-approach to getting in the box. What does that look like for you? Feel your feet on the ground. I want you, and before I even put them in a situation, like, I'm having them push their lower back into the ground. Their hands are feeling the cement or the grass, like their head is heavy, or I'll say, relax your shoulders. And all of a sudden, everybody's shoulders just falls to the ground. And, you know, and it's so cool to see them do that. And, you know, and I just remind them, like, the nerves that you feel, that is normal. What that is, the difference between good nerves and bad nerves is that bad nerves is when you're not prepared. You haven't been preparing for this moment. It's like when you're about to take a test and you didn't study, and all of a sudden I'm like, oh crap, like, I didn't study. But I had that same feeling when I studied, and I'm still sitting in the test seat, and I'm like, oh crap, like, I'm about to take, my heart's beating fast, I'm pounding, it's pounding. But the difference between the good nerves and the bad nerves is that your preparation. And so I remind them, these nerves are perfectly normal. This is your body telling yourself you are ready for battle, because you prepared for this moment. You are where you're supposed to be. And so reminding them that, I mean, we have a journal, my girls write in their journals, and, you know, they just have to do 3 things. I want you to tell me how you felt, what you were thinking, one moment where you had a positive thought or a negative thought, one moment when you had a positive thought, and then pick something that you did good physically on the field, whether it's defense or offense. And those are the 3 things you're gonna write in your journal. And then that way you have something to revert to or to look at, and to be like, okay, when I played really well, when I felt really good about myself, or when I had a negative thought, this is what I countered it with. And so, you know, I'm really, like you, Skeeter, like, I'm really big on, like, the mental side. And my girls don't even get 30 seconds, unfortunately. It's like, you strike out, like, your 30 seconds starts, like, right when you start walking to the dugout, or like jogging back to the dugout. Because this age, they're like, they'll cry, but like boo-hoo cry, like, to a point where they are like crying so much that they can't snap out of it. And so it's like, you do what you got to do, and you have 7 seconds when you sit, once you step foot in that dugout, you need to take your deep breaths. You can sit down on the bench. Everybody leave her alone, like, let her do whatever she needs to do to get her mind right. So now she can be a good teammate. She can get up to the fence, cheer on her teammate. And then if they strike out right before we go on defense, don't come back out of the dugout. Like, take your time, take your seconds, dry it up, talk yourself through whatever you need to talk yourself through, take your deep breaths. And then when you step on that field, it's go time, because now your teammates need you. We can't have you on the field with tears flowing down your face. It's not going to work. And so at that point, you know, if they're still crying and stuff, they can't be productive and they can't do what they need to do. So I always tell my girls, you gotta be able to flip that switch. And it's hard to do, but we're practicing it now. And so, you know, I'm just very, very firm on it, but I also understand that they're 10. And so giving them grace and helping them through that, and, you know, helping them to understand that what that means, what those feelings are, but also trying to help them navigate it quickly, because you don't have that kind of time, you know, like when you're going in between innings, we don't have time to sulk, and we got to find a way to flip that switch. And so we work on that.
I love hearing that somebody else does middle reps. Because I've had parents, kids, and coaches all look at me crazy whenever I have girls circle up around me and just take visual at bats. And we've hit really well in those games, but that everything continues to age. We do that with the game all the time. It works really well. I can't take credit for that. You know, it's Tony, here's somebody outside the organization here, you put value in that. It's fantastic. And I guess to segue, not to hog the question entirely, but to kind of step two to that same question. How important do you think, and maybe at what age, that it's important to start kind of putting that thought in, kind of separating? This is their game, not their parents. This is their journey, not their parents. And obviously, we don't want to separate. Hey, that's their biggest support system. Mom and dad love you, you know, whatever it is. You know, they're behind you 100%. But this has got to be your journey and your thing. To kind of stop looking behind the fence all the time, you know, that's kind of thing. Curious to hear, you know, some of your experiences with that, maybe in some of the ways you teach that. And I'm sure it gets a little easier as they get older, but developing that right mindset. So.
I told my parents very early on that they're not even allowed to come to the dugout. So they're allowed to talk to the players in between games. They can coach them up all they want. If they want to tell them all the things they need to tell them that they saw, that they evaluated throughout, they tell them all the things in between games. But when the girls step in that dugout and it's game time, you are not allowed to approach it. The girls need to have their own little ice chest with food and all that, because I don't want my girls yelling out that they need a hot dog or any type of drink or anything else. And when it's go time, they need to have all that stuff ready to go. So I tell the parents, look, each girl needs to have their own little ice chest, so that, or their own little cooler, so that when we're in the dugout and it's go time, it's game time, they can focus on that. If they need a snack, they can snack, they have all the drinks that they need, they have all the things. But there's no need to leave the dugout, and there's no need for you to come to the dugout, because nothing that you said, no key words are going to help your kid get a hit. So if you have direction for it, you can shout all the things on your side of the fence in your chair, and you can tell them whatever key word you think is going to help them click in. You do all that, but do not come to my dugout, because what's going to happen is I'm going to address you and I'm going to address your player. And I've already told the players, so I tell the players that too. I told them at practice, look, you are not to talk to mom and dad. You are not to get a snack. You are not to get a drink. Do any of them. When it's game time, you do all the things in between, you know, and they respect it. They really do. And I even put it in a group chat just to remind everybody. And I said, hey, I need everybody to like this so that I know we're all on the same page. I need each parent to like this message, so I know we're all on the same page, and I will readdress it with the girls at practice, so that they know not to shout to you, because if it happens, I will, you know, I'll address you, and then I'll address your player. I'll address your player, and then I'll address you. So, and it's been wonderful. Like they don't step anywhere near. Everybody's afraid to come to the dugout, and I love it.
I'm afraid to come to your dugout too.
My moms are like, yeah, when you're talking to my players, she's like, when you're talking to my daughter, I'm like, yes, coach. Yes, coach.
I love it.
She's like, and I'm not even your player.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
the thing about it is I coach hard, but I love hard too. And so like, they are my babies. And so they know how much I love them, and I show them, and they're my heart. And so, but I show them that. And so I think that as a coach, if you can coach hard, but you can love hard, and they know how much you care about them and love them, that they're gonna I mean, my girls look at me and they're just like, like they just soak it in and they love it and they love to be out there and practice. I mean, they work hard, and it's like, it's everything to me to see that. And like wins and losses, like, do I like to win? And at the end of the day, like, would I like to win? Yeah, that's always the goal, but that's not the mission. And so, like, if I know that, like, yeah, that's the end game, but there's so many other things that help us get to that, that I would like to make sure that I touch on and hit on with my players. And so I'm just so passionate about it, and I'm passionate about them learning and understanding that, like, if you're playing travel ball, it's because you're serious about softball. And so I'm helping you so that as you get older, you know what to expect. And we've set that foundation. And so that when you move on, and if you choose to continue to try to strive for college, that great, like, you're gonna be set. Like, you make it with me, like, you're gonna make it in college. But like, also, like, if you decide that's not your path, that you're gonna be a successful adult, a career person, like, you can go out there and you can compete, and you know what good nerves and bad nerves are, and you know how to fail, and you know how to do all those things and still continue to move forward. Like, that's so important to me. And that's why I just love this age group, because they just want to know, like, they just want to soak it all in, and because they love it right now. And so anything that you teach them, and you teach it passionately, and they know that you love them and care about them, it's like, they're going to go to battle. And so I love it. It's just such a passion for me that, yeah, as you can tell, I'm a passionate person in general. So like, my voice is always like very passionate, and my husband's like, why are you yelling at me? And I'm like, I'm not yelling, it's passion. So, I use it for everything.
I'm stealing that one for sure. I'm not yelling, it's just passion.
This is great.
The one
Go
thing
ahead, go ahead, Skeeter.
The one thing I just wanted to add, because I love the dugout rule, saying, yeah, we don't have parents by the dugouts. But the other thing that we have is no coaching from the stands. And the reason that is important is, again, to speak to your point or your question, Chris, is it's time, like, when they're with us, they need to be here with us so that we can key in. I may be asking them to focus on one thing, and you're yelling something totally different from the stands. And then that kid is stuck in the middle. Do I listen to coach? Do I listen to mom or dad? And so I explain to the parents, it puts your kid, in a difficult position. But then also, let's realize, not only as parents, but sometimes as coaches too, like, game time is not time for a hitting clinic. Like, I mean, can I get an amen? Like, you should not be doing a hitting clinic in the third base coach's box, right? You're up there, hands inside, keep your hands high, power through the ball. No. See ball, hit ball. All the teaching needs to happen before the game. I love what you said, Selena, about say all the things between games. Get it all out. Everything that you want to say to your kid. And also as coaches, like, that's our time to really, dial a couple of things in. Hey, let's work off the tee. Let's work on this. But then when it's game time, we've got to be able to flip that switch as well. And we've got to be able to ask that of our parents. Like, now we just need you to support and be there to support and empower, and let us coach. And and we're not going to put on a hitting clinic in the third base's coach's box, because it's not going to help anybody. It doesn't make us feel any better. And it certainly does not help the athlete perform.
I love this, you guys. I do want to be respectful of everybody's time as well. And it just kind of cool in summarizing a lot of the answers too. I think the importance of setting a culture, setting expectations, the mindset is so important. I can speak to that too as an athlete as well, and just how important that is of what's going on up there. So I feel like sometimes as adults and coaches, we overcomplicate it when it could be actually pretty simple of starting with some of those key things. Before we go, you guys, does anybody have just a question they really want answered? Please don't leave here without getting a question answered. So anybody have anything?
I could ask one question that I've been trying to figure out. So my kids crush the ball in live reps in practice. Even off our number one pitcher, they crush the ball. In games, it's hard for them to make an adjustment sometimes. So I've tried to introduce more pressure situations in practice, like, okay, this is a live rep session with a number one pitcher, but you're starting with a 2-2 count. And that increased the pressure that got them to, adjust a little bit more. Does anybody have any good ideas as to how to translate really good hitting practices to game situations?
You do live in practices?
Like once a month, I help my pitchers get a rotation going with our infield, and we'll pitch, catch, and I'll have a rotation of like 3 batters hit against our pitchers. And then I'll have them do maybe 2-3 at bats, then I'll switch the rotation around.
You might want to maybe do a live a little bit more, just to give them that, that real pitching feel, like that real game-like feel, and actually do modified scrimmages. I know that I do that with my team. We'll do a modified scrimmage, and I kind of pair them like you 3 on a team, but like everybody's playing defense, and then you have your, pitcher and catcher, and then you switch them out. But you have them like kind of rotate as 3s, but they still have to play defense, because I only carry 11, so it's not enough for two full teams. So I just do modified scrimmages if I feel like my team is struggling a little bit more, and then making sure that they are the same, like making sure they're doing lessons outside of practices, and that they're working on their own, because at the end of the day, if they're not practicing outside of you and your team, they're not practicing enough. And so you can't get all the things you need to do and all the reps and practice and things with a 2-a-week practice. It's just not cutting it. So if you can do some live during your 2, if you're having 2 practices a week, then get some more live, or at least try to do a live before maybe your tournament. And then, try to make sure that you're requiring your kids to do lessons and practice outside of your practice.
One thing I can jump in there as well, because I've seen it with lessons. I've seen it with our players at all levels. I've seen kids in my lessons that crush the ball off BP and crush the ball in front toss. And then I go to watch them play in a game, and they can't hit the broadside of a barn. I'm like, who is this kid? And what I notice more often than not is when I get them back to that lesson, I ask a question. I let them swing a few times, and I'll ask a question on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the utmost intensity, adrenaline's flowing, swinging out of your shoes intensity, and 1 being taking up space in the batter's box. What are you swinging at right now? What number? And so I'll have them give me a number. And a lot of times what I hear in lessons, like, well, let's say we're doing front toss, that felt like a 7 out of 10. Okay. Yeah, I would agree. That's a 7 out of 10. But what are you doing in a game? In a game, your adrenaline's pumping, you're trying to crush the ball, and they're swinging a 9 out of 10. So now what they've done is they've developed a really good practice swing and a game swing, but the 2 don't correlate in their head, right? And so in practice, it's in lessons, and when you're doing station work, I really recommend asking what that question is. A 7 out of 10 for one kid might be okay, but I'm asking all of my kids to be operating at an 8 or a 9 almost every swing. And to facilitate that, when we do station work, we do 6 rep max. So they take 6 swings, rotate with their partner, 6 swings, rotate with their partner. Why? Because anybody can stay focused for 6 swings, but asking especially younger kids, and heck, even college kids, to stay focused and dialed in for more than 6 swings, you're not getting the quality that you want. So 6 swings and rotate. But of those 6 swings, give me your number, right? And then that's a way for you to challenge them too. Was that really a 7, or was that more like a 6? Yeah, that was a 6. I ain't gonna cut it. So it's just a way for them to start correlating, because the practice swing and the game swing, you can develop 2 swings, and I've seen it happen a whole lot.
All right, you guys, I am gonna wrap it up, because I know I'd said an hour, and I know everybody's got meetings and other things. Selena, I know you have to jump to another meeting, so thank you very much for joining us. For all of you guys we recorded this and are gonna send it back out to you guys if you'd like to go back and take notes or different things. Just curious of your feedback too, whether you give a thumbs up, but would you all want more of this? Is this helpful? Is this something? Because that's really our role with the Alliance is we want to, like we said at the beginning, we want to bring the community of coaches together and provide resources for you guys. We have access to a lot of youth coaches. We have over 1,200 youth coaches that are members of the Alliance Fastpitch. So, and I know that they would love to help too. So I put a couple resources for you guys, our email address, if you have any questions about the Alliance, our website as well. For 10U athletes, by the way, our membership is free. So if you are a parent and you have a 10U athlete and you want to register her with the Alliance Fastpitch for the remaining 2-3 months, it is free. And we try to do member webinars. We have different information and access to resources that we send out. So you're welcome to either go on the website and join or through that way, or you can even email us and we can send that out to you guys as well. Skeeter, Selena, thank you guys. I really, really appreciate you all sharing the time. And thanks everybody for asking questions too.
Absolutely. This is great. Thanks for providing the platform for all of us. This is what makes us all better. We all steal ideas and collaborate. And this is going to make the sport so much better.
So, well,
Yes, agreed. This is awesome. Thanks, guys, for listening. I got to jump on another meeting. So this was awesome. I loved it, and I love doing this kind of stuff. So anytime.
appreciate it, you guys. One more plug, because the fact that you all joined is a huge deal that you want to learn. We have a podcast, The Car Ride Home, that I know my next 2 guests, I got to get on there as well. So we have that. And I talk to coaches quite a bit. We're hosting a coaches summit on Friday in Oklahoma City. If you're not nearby in Oklahoma City, we are going to have a streaming link too. Anybody that attended here, if you want to come to Oklahoma City, email us and you're coming for free. If you want to join, but also we will have a streaming link and are going to stream it for free too, if you'd like to keep learning. So we will get all that lovely info out to you guys. But thank you again. This was super, I don't know, it was fun. It's just really cool to see this many people that are passionate about helping softball players and kids. So thank you guys.